Hello, I'm Natalie Kunsman, MD, and today we are doing Psoriasis Part 2, Focus on the Food. Now, I think of psoriasis and food in several different categories, and just when you thought food was simple, it is not, because our base chemistry and healing and nourishment comes from these principles. So today we're going to talk about food avoidances in psoriasis, and then foods that heal. Now, we psoriasis patients have an extremely sensitive system. Our skin becomes a detoxing organ when it does not know how to handle foods that aren't good for us or different chemicals that can't be broken down. It will turn into this whole cascade of events which will make our immune systems misguided and hypersensitive. Now, I say we because this has been an illness that I have lived with for 30 plus years. So, let's talk about food avoidances. Now, each of us is individual, and there are normal foods that may be causing allergies and reactions that even could potentially kill someone, let alone cause an autoimmune reaction, because it's just basically toxic to their system. So I will almost always test my patients with a food allergy panel, and most times I will follow it up with a food intolerance panel. Now, a food allergy panel is measuring IgG, which is an immediate reaction as food would hit our tongues and our upper GI tract, and this can be measured in traditional blood work. So IgE is secreted from a B cell when it comes in contact with a chemical that appears as a toxin, and it will release an immediate reaction. And sometimes people will need to carry EpiPens to combat this reaction because it can be lethal, as in the case of anaphylaxis. Now, the most common IgE-based food allergies are eggs, milk, cow's milk, peanuts, tree nuts, fish, shellfish, wheat, and soy. Now, there are others, but these are the top 8 that we notice. Now, food intolerances are delayed reactions that may take anywhere from 1 to 7 days, as food being the potential toxin as it's entering the gut system. And in this particular case, we're looking at IgG from a B cell that's being secreted. And then there's a whole other arm that has some IgA in the gut lining. Now, typically these delayed reactions or hypersensitivities are typically not life-threatening. They will probably be causing a leaky gut situation and destroy the lining of the gut, which makes us more and more susceptible to a misguided immune reaction. And these types of reactions may not be permanent, and they respond to reintroduction over time after there has been a food avoidance to try to treat it. Now, I'm going to give you some information that is very specific and is giving some commercial information. One of the testing strategies that I will use for these delayed reactions comes from Genova Diagnostics, and it is a food allergen panel that will test up to about 87 foods, but it will also test some spices. There is also ALCAT, that's all capital letters, ALCAT, and that's using a lymphocyte testing strategy, and that is through Cell Sciences, which is a company that's a lab that's run in the Florida area, and that can measure about 200 different common foods and spices, and even some medications that people may be reacting to. Then there is also one other lab that is quite reputable, which is Cyrex, C-Y-R-E-X lab, which can run a very good base food intolerance panel. Okay, so we talked about foods we need to avoid because it may just simply cause allergic and hypersensitivity reactions. And now we're going to get into some of the nitty-gritty avoidances that would be nearly across the board. And the first one is sugar. Let us avoid sugar. There is no nutritional value in it. It causes insulin levels to severely spike, which can yield the whole inflammatory and immune cascade. It severely overloads our livers to process and break down. And liver toxicity is a key player in preventing the good, normal detoxification that we need to have in our immune systems. And it also can create a fatty liver. And to that note, we need to avoid alcohol. And we think a lot of the alcohol mechanistic issues are also related to the liver's handling of the alcohol. Plus, don't forget, and some of you may notice this, alcohol is a vasodilator. So what it does is it will get down to the capillary bed and open that capillary and allow that extra blood flow into the skin area, which is also common in rosacea. And that promotes the redness that is going to the skin after alcohol ingestion. Now, I think most of us are learning about the nightshades. We psoriasis patients don't do well with nightshades. Nightshades will include the potato, tomato, tobacco, eggplant, pepper, goji berries, and a few other items. And the reason these are a problem is there are saponins or natural saponins in these foods that behave as an acetylcholinesterase inhibitor, and too much of that creates a lot of toxicity. Now, acetylcholinesterase inhibitors will naturally occur also in venoms and poisons. They are used as weapons, such as nerve agents. They are used in insecticides, but now there are some beneficial things such that we may use them in some medications, and of course, not at high levels, but at low levels just to promote more acetylcholine in the area, such as glaucoma and myasthenia gravis. Okay, we need to talk a little bit about lectins. Now, lectins, potentially day after day, a month after month, can also create some intestinal wall permeability and inflammation. And these lectins can also cause disruption of the normal tight junctions in those cell walls. Now, the common lectins, or foods that are highest in lectins, are also those nightshade vegetables that we just got done talking about. But also, lectins are high in our lentils, beans, peanuts, and chickpeas. Obviously, peanut-based products, peanut butter, peanut oil. And there are lectins that are high in our grains. And obviously, when we use flour, that comes from a grain. So that would be in our cakes and crackers and bread. And do not forget that gluten is a lectin. There are some lectins in animal-based proteins, such as dairy and milk. But there is a little bit of hope for lectins because a lot of them can be eliminated in preparations such as sprouting, fermentation, or cooking. So those were big categories of foods that we need to avoid. Let's move on to the foods we should consume to heal not only our guts, but to heal our skin and liver. So, the alkaline diet. What is that? Well, it's quite a healthy diet that is actually encouraging fruits and veggies, plant-based foods, while it is reducing a lot of the junk foods. And if anybody is read on Pagano's diet, he actually required 70 to 80% of the diet to be alkaline, while the other can be the acid-producing foods. Now, as a sidebar, coffee is considered acidic, so tea, which is alkaline, which would make a great replacement. So moving on, and again, most of what I'm going to talk about is a lot more in that alkaline category. This is what us psoriatic patients respond well to. Fruits and veggies, organic, grown locally, especially the berries when it comes to the fruits, and especially the leafy greens when it comes to the veggies. We do very well with juicing, especially the green juices. The psoriatic skin and healing does well with salmon, sardines, fishes that are very rich in the omega-3 acids. And again, the omega-3 acids are what we need in that chain of the inflammatory cascade to block and lower the inflammation. There are antioxidant-rich herbs and spices like thyme and sage and cumin and ginger. There are also healthy fats that we want to consume, such as the olive oils, some of the seed oils, some of the nut oils, and of course, one of the best nut oils is coconut oil. Bone broth. I don't know if any of you have tried bone broth and introduced it into your healing regimen, but it is loaded with collagen, and its forte is healing the gut lining. Colostrum, very similar in its process to collagen, is very good at binding the IgG particles that we were talking about in the food intolerances, and that can also promote a lot of gut healing. Now, there's a lot of progenitor cells and some stem cell stimulation that colostrum provides, but as far as psoriasis, it can block inflammation at the gut level. Now, there is some Chinese herbs such as indigo naturalis, known as qingdai, turmeric, Dead Sea salts, and apple cider vinegar. I know a lot of you out there are working with some apple cider vinegar as far as ingestion with a little bit mixed in water, or the topical approach on the lesions themselves. Now, I love lecithin, and that is part of my daily regimen. I prefer the sunflower derived, and it usually comes in granules, and I will say this is pretty overlooked in the average literature and discussions about psoriasis healing. It is a type of liquid that helps break down the fat or emulsifies the fat, and it actually protects our cells. And it contains a lot of B vitamin, choline, with some linoleic acid and inositol. Couple more simple things, and you may have heard of this in the Pagano diet. Yellow saffron tea is very gut healing, as is slippery elm bark. Now, I know there's probably several other regimens you all have discovered in your healing process, so I would love if you could share those ideas down below, and please subscribe to my channel. Please send this to anybody, not only that has psoriasis, but who needs to have any healing, because these dietary strategies are very low inflammatory and very pro-healing. Again, I'm Natalie Kunsman, MD. And until we meet again, be well.